This episode is brought to you by a special alert that this coming Friday and Saturday is a special streaming event.
Special. Go to
get it yet?
Yeah, it's very special. Go to Duckfeed.tv /Duckstream to learn all about our charity live stream event that we're doing. It's about a week after you're hearing this. We are gaming for 24 hours between the two of us. So really it's 12 hours each, but shut up. And
it's 24 hours of content. So
yes, and we're doing it for charity. So don't get all pedantic.
Yeah, but don't bust my balls about this. Come on.
Yeah, leave our balls alone. So we are the first. So starting at 6 p.m. PST, West Coast team. So me, Nick, and Brayden are going to be hanging out. I'm going to do a Dark Souls speedrun that I think I can confidently say will put any speedrunner to shame.
You're going to drop some revolutionary science on these folks.
Yeah. It's going to be about 2.5 times as long as the world record. That's what I'm hoping for. Sub 2 hours and 30 minutes. But also just playing a bunch of Isaac. And then what's happening in the second half, Cole?
Well, in the second half, my copy of Haunting Ground has arrived. Mm-hmm. And it tests out fine. It could crap out 3/4 of the way through. Who knows? But I'm going to be streaming that underrated survival horror game for the first 9 or 10 hours or so, and we're going to finish out strong with some of the crew from the level, and we're going to do some co-op stuff. I believe right now. If I say it, I'm going to hold this. We're going to be held accountable for it, so I'm not going to say it. But it's going to be pretty fun. Check Duckfeed.tv /Duckstream for like a schedule of events.
Yeah, he was going to say Voldemort, and he didn't want to.
Yeah. Gary, you've doomed us all.
Haster. So that's what you should do. And all proceeds are going to Transactive Gender Center, which is the only organization of its kind in the country that provides support. That was supposed to be being support and, I don't know, Gort. There's a two of those. Yeah, it provides Gort.
They give bags of trail mix.
Yep. It provides GORP to transgendered youth and their families, and it is an awesome cause. And I hope that everybody who's listening is willing to give deep, because it is. I would really like to to show them that gamers are not pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether you are giving money to prove a point or to be a good person.
Yeah, both are acceptable.
Yeah, both are acceptable. There's a little PayPal link at the bottom of Duckfeed.tv /Duckstream. We're really excited to be using our minor sway to do something good, and I'm very much looking forward to playing games for y'all.
Yeah, so check it out.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
Oh my, haste makes waste.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And I'm Lobos Jr.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a cursed favorite.
Yes, and this week is our speed running special for Dark Souls 2. And as you heard, we are joined once again by Lobos Jr., noted YouTube strongman.
Yeah, he won the YouTube strongman contest 10 years, like through those YouTube logs, and
yeah,
that's right.
Did the YouTube bell.
Yep. Tossed pianos full of copies of Dark Souls into second-story windows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for coming back.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate it. People, this is the first repeat guest we've had in a season, and we were really happy to have Lobos come on and actually talk about an area. But this is, is it fair to say that, that would you say that your primary interest in Dark Souls 2 when it first came out was to kind of speedrun it, or did that come secondary, or?
Well, I had done a lot of challenge runs in Dark Souls 1, so yeah, especially right off the bat, I went for speedrunning full force, pretty much. Mm-hmm. That's a good way to prep yourself for the challenge runs, because if you want to set up a certain build or something, you know how to get to everything really quickly. So,
yeah. And it wouldn't be, people who listen to the show have heard heard us talk 1,000 times about Lobos's videos and his Twitch stream and such. And highest recommendation. I will not rest until everybody listens to this show. Also watches you on the internet.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
super
thank you.
entertaining. Yeah.
Yes. 3 words: Olympic torch run.
Yeah. I was really happy that finally happened. When you first mentioned it, I started Googling around to see if anyone had done it,
Sure.
and nothing. But I was happy that. And for anybody who's listening, who doesn't know, could you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. It was tricky figuring out how exactly to make the run work, but it was essentially trying to keep a torch, which, as you probably know, was a mechanic that was added into Dark Souls 2, where you could just light areas, keeping that lit throughout the entire game, essentially, as soon as you could retrieve a torch and light it.
Yes.
I love in the run you did. I love the metafictional part of when you go into the giant's memories, and you
Right.
have to light you have to light the original flame that you end up using. Like
That was the stretch. That was the one stretch that I was like, we can't carry fire through a loading screen, so yes.
Oh.
Yeah, super cool. Have you done? Because you can. I hesitate to make your life any more difficult if this does, but you know that you can attack with the torch, right? Have you?
Yes.
Have you considered that nightmare at all?
That I don't think that would be feasible simply because of torch time. Because sure, you can use bonfire aesthetics and get more torches in Majula, very simple. But even with, you would run out of bonfire aesthetics, and the torch does like 2 or 3 damage with no scaling. So
Yeah. Ooh.
Can you do like a raw torch?
Yeah.
a raw
sounds like
torch, I don't think you can. No.
Oh.
It sounds like old timey jazz slang or something.
Yeah.
Like, give me some of that raw torch.
Now, if you consider a club a raw torch, then sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, definitely not a cook torch.
There.
Yeah. But yeah, so we don't have tons of structure. We mostly just wanted to get a little bit of kind of insight into to what is different about speedrunning Dark Souls 2 versus 1. Do you want to kind of just go into that a little bit?
Sure. Well, in general, they changed mechanics seemingly targeted at speedrunners in some cases, like activating levers or opening doors or going through a fog gate no longer are instantly in vulnerability frames. So when we were speedrunning, we had to make sure that we either baited enemies away from our destination item or door or whatever we had to interact with, and then make our way through there and hope for the best that they didn't rear back and hit us and knock us out of that animation. That was probably the biggest game changer. Another one was the fact that they probably less prominent. The fact that they had a stat that defined exactly how many iframes on your roll, invulnerability frames, were on your rolling because that requires you, if you're not leveling that stat, you have to be a lot more precise on the dodging. But that's a lesser one that you can kind of learn and get used to and master the bosses even more and then have no problems there. What else is there? Certainly there's other things that will come to mind as we talk more about it.
How big of a deal is it that they added or played up the kind of the Guardian AI path?
Oh, yeah.
Where
there's
somebody will
definitely
just
a couple
post it up.
spots where, like an enemy is certainly programmed to like not move from a certain location. One comes to mind in the speedrun at least is right before Velstadt. There's the two heavy hunkered down guys that are just there to make your life miserable if you're speedrunning. Essentially we came up with a strategy that you could kind of bait a guy off consistently, so there was only one of them, and then you would just run by him and hope for the best, and maybe 50% of the time it would work. And if it didn't, you would just kind of heal up, run around in a circle, and try it again. So, yeah.
I know that the all bosses speedrun for Dark Souls 2 is significantly longer, or at least it feels like it is.
Absolutely.
The just kind of any percent non-glitched run, because one of the things we talk about a lot on the show is how it seems like Dark Souls 2 is just like so much bigger of a game. I don't know, it seems objectively bigger, but at the very least it felt bigger, while we were playing it.
Sure.
It seems like it would be kind of a harder order to get through in a speedy manner.
Well, compared to Dark Souls 1, I would say there's probably a more area, but since the game is built more around like being able to warp back after, completing one section, you can kind of skip a lot of running that way.
Yeah.
Especially if you take into account all the 3 DLCs that they added, now the all bosses runs are, considerable length, around I think 240-ish or so.
Wow.
It's been a while since I've kept track of the all bosses anyways.
Yeah.
And just for perspective, what is like the all bosses Dark Souls 1?
Dark Souls 1's about half that, 120? I don't think it went below 120 unless Sansa's been doing more runs lately or something.
Yeah, unless he's been busy. So you'd say that the bonfire warping, kind of offsets the fact that it's hub and spoke, right?
Yeah, and especially since you don't have to worry about like skipping bonfires, so that at the end of a spoke you can just homeward bone back. They actually give you that primal bonfire that you just click and takes you back to Majula, which is and along those lines, now that I'm thinking about it, the fact that you have to level up at the Emerald Herald, that kind of makes that convenient again, since you just warp back to Majula. There you are, you can level up. But it certainly did add time to the run.
Yeah. For people who aren't aware, how important is leveling up in a speed run?
It's important to not level up frequently, because then you would have to, make frequent trips back. But yeah, getting a very specific amount of stats to use some really good weapon as quickly as possible is very. It's usually down to like a couple of souls, basically. So
yeah,
very, very thought out.
Is there the equivalent of kind of the Black Knight Halberd speedrun, where there's an item that you are shooting for from the start that will kind of determine whether or not this run will be good or bad?
With the later patches, the Red Iron Twin Blade has actually been an extraordinarily good weapon for speedrunning. Before that, people have been using anything from like a rapier or just a mace. They have some very high scaling weapons early on in the game, and they tend to carry pretty well until you get to that Red Iron Twin Blade, and that just kind of finishes the run.
Yeah,
it's interesting the way that that scene has also kind of evolved with these PvP focused patches. Like it feels like from it was mostly trying to balance things out for that purpose, and then also impacted this other kind of emergent gameplay aspect of the game. Yeah.
Especially earlier on, the all bosses routes were all hexes, because like Great Resonant Soul hit for it was like 2-shot bosses basically, and it was very fast. But From Software said no to that and decided to balance it, I would say, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, other than the hex nerf, has there been any change that they've made that has really kind of upset and changed the way that non-glitched speedruns were handled?
As far as non-glitched, I mean, not nerfs really. Only the buffs to physical weapons. They buffed a lot of physical damage weapons, and with that came the introduction of Red Iron Twin Blade to the routes. Because at that point it was just absurdly good.
Yeah,
and that's the strength scaling Twin Blade.
Yep, strength scaling one in Shrine of Amana.
Okay, it's interesting because you get that fairly late.
It is pretty late, but for an all bosses run, like maybe you'll get to you'll do all the DLCs after you've done Shrine of Amana or something like that.
Since you can kind of tackle any of the 4 immediate spokes in any order, is there does that matter? Is there one place that you generally try and run toward first, be that Hades or the pit, etc.?
Sure. if you're talking about, so there's actually 2 routes for glitchless in theory. I mean, obviously way more, but the 2 routes would be to either get 1 million souls, which opens up the Shrine of Winter, and you don't have to kill the 4 bosses to unlock that, or doing it, which we call the Old Gods route, or Old Souls route, sorry, where you actually, even if you get 1 million souls, the idea is to kill all 4 of those bosses and then proceed through the Shrine of Winter. So if you're doing it under those normal circumstances, it's kind of preference. So not necessarily in order, although typically you would probably do the Old Iron King earlier because you get access to purchasing large Titanite shards sooner. That's really the only thing I can think of to consider when doing that.
And the just so for people who may or may not be familiar, the 1 million souls thing is when somebody uses ascetics and just kills one of those bosses over and over. I know initially it's been a little while since I've watched Dark Souls 2 speedruns, because in the early game I know it was the Rotten,
Right.
And then is it Iron King still? Is that the one that people
actually
go
it's
with?
back to the Rotten again?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was with the physical damage buffs to the weapons again. Like, it made it so that also the one that I have been running most recently uses the Drangleic sword, which upgrades with Twinkling Titanite. And so because there was DLC where you can briefly run into and gather a lot of upgrade materials, you can get out of there. You don't have to do Old Iron King. The main reason was for upgrading weapons so that you could buy large Titanite shards and then Titanite chunks after Velstadt. But with the Twinkling Titanite, you don't have to worry about that at all. You just gather it all in the DLC, and then you can buff the Drangleic sword, and you're good on your weapon. You don't have to do any more sidetracked questing or anything like that for that.
Yeah. Is there any kind of like make it or break it point that happens incredibly like early on, like where you can just tell if something doesn't go my way at this juncture, I would need to abandon this run?
Well, at any point, actually, there's probably a couple. One is a certainly run killer is if you do not get the Seldora armor set from the merchant. You kill him right at the beginning of the run. And for all of the bosses, you need to be wearing the full set as well as the Silver Covetous Serpent Ring from Melentia, who you also kill. It's a lot of NPC death in this run.
So sad.
But if you're not wearing all of those, the soul count will come up short, and you will have to just kill something randomly to get the 1 million souls to open the way to Shrine of Winter. That's one killer, but once you get that into the habit of equipping it after every boss, it's pretty standard. One area in particular that is dangerous as far as just dying is just running through the Sunken King DLC, which is where we go get the Twinkling Titanite from.
Yeah, because I mean that area is balanced for after Nashandra. Like, you're definitely breaking the sequence.
Yeah, certainly not balanced for a naked guy with no sort of offense running through there at like soul level 10 or something
with
like that.
Yeah. See you, boners.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like this is unrelated to speedruns, but more kind of tuned for challenge runs, I guess. But with the changes to Pyromancer and just the rebalancing of the different classes, it seems like low level runs are much less viable than they were in Dark Souls 1, right?
Well, and the one thing that makes the soul level 1 runs hard, at least for me, initially when I was trying to do the level 1 runs, was the fact that your agility stat does determine your invulnerability frames. So if you're used to playing with the iframes on Dark Souls 1, which is considerably more than base agility in Dark Souls 2, you're going to have a hard time because they will just hit right through your rolls, and you can't do too much about it besides get better at it.
Considerably more and also consistent, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like from play to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people who have done Soul Level 1 runs. There is a lot of equipment, especially in the DLC, that boost your stats that people take advantage of. But I don't think I don't think there's any equipment that boosts agility. That I know.
There is a ring that does do that. The one in the name escapes me right now, but there's a ring in the Old Iron King DLC that gives you the it changes your roll and it makes you like blink basically. I can't remember the ring. It's like a puff of smoke when you roll and you turn invisible for a second. That one actually does increase your iframes.
Oh, neat.
Invincibility and invisibility frames.
Yes.
Yeah. I can stand for it's a dual system.
Or is it E frames?
It is versatile.
Never mind.
Yeah. Electronic frames. I was because I got that ring and I was like, oh, this seems like a real PvP type of item.
Right.
But I didn't realize I would have utility. That's neat.
Kind of related to the make it or break it thing, is there any particular boss that is dicier than the others?
I'm sure it's different for everybody, but for me in particular, and I could almost say with certainty for other people as well, the Throne Watcher and Defender fight. Simply because if you're trying to do it really fast, you can do a strategy that makes Throne Watcher actually fall off the ledge. But it's it's hard to get consistent, I guess I would say. And although it's faster probably to kill them by yourself, you can just summon Benhart and kind of wail on them while he attracts their attention. Yeah. But once again, that's also kind of, randomness, luck of the draw as to whether or not they even look at him.
Yeah.
Other than that, you just get really good at dodging the rotten. Because to kill him fastest, you just stand right in front of him while he does all of his attacks and time those rolls. And once again, you have low iframe, so if you're not good at not consistent at that, especially once you have to fight him on his new game plus 2, plus 3 forms, he'll one-shot you in every case. So there's that.
Have people? I haven't. Like I said, I haven't kept up. Are speedrunners fighting the one boss from the Ivory King without gaining that item? Yet I'm trying not to be spoilery. I don't know if you're picking up what I'm putting down. That first one, are people just tanking that or are figured out how to do it without getting the item first?
It has been a little while since I watched that run. Last time I watched, they were not. They were not fighting him in that state. They would actually get the item and then fight him.
Nice little Easter egg for people who played that, and hopefully it doesn't ruin anything for. All you know is that there's a guy who has a state and there's an item.
Exactly.
If you can construct a spoiler out of that,
I'm not buying the DLC anymore. It's ruined.
Yeah. Poor kids.
So you're talking about watching those. As somebody who does speed runs, is there a particular style of run that you find kind of most entertaining or most harrowing to watch?
For Dark Souls 2 in particular?
Yeah.
I typically watch whatever run I'm trying to work on. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but that either that or a run I know nothing about. Those are the most interesting to me. So if given a choice, I'll typically throw on an all bosses run, which I haven't run in a long time, especially with a new DLC, or somebody going for a competitive time in the route that I know.
Yeah.
What just to kind of lay it out for anybody who's not of this world too, let's take a moment to just kind of say the different kind of categories of speedruns for Dark Souls 2 right now. So because you had mentioned that you'll watch a run that you know nothing about, like what are the kind of categories or what differentiates these things other than just bosses versus all bosses versus any percent?
Definitely. Well, like I mentioned earlier, for the non-glitched any percent route, there is the one where you kill Rotten 4 times, get the 1,000,000 souls, and proceed through the Shrine of Winter. There's the one where you kill all 4 of the soul bosses, Iron King, Sinner, all those guys. Then there is the any percent glitched category, which involves using an unpatched version of the game and allows you to beat the game in an absurd amount of time. Something like 16 minutes, I think, is the world record. So And then there's all bosses, of course. And occasionally there's variations on those routes. For example, using a different weapon or using spells instead of a weapon. But there's typically one route that will be fastest of those.
That glitch run is nuts. Like the I think I've put in the show notes before, but like for anyone who's listening who's not familiar, like essentially you by pairing somebody and then rolling over them, you can get kind of walk on air and you use it to skip like everything. Like you know, and then you do this item duping glitch to level up, and it's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And this binoculars thing where you you move at the speed that the binoculars zoom in, I think is maybe what's happening. It's real crazy. Like it is fun to watch, and like in 16 minutes.
So it's like a straight up Dishonored Blink.
Yeah, like kind of. I mean, you are still running, and you have to kind of reset it every once in a while. Is it like is it whenever you stop or?
It's like you'll be running for maybe 2 to 3 seconds with this super speed, and then it'll wear off. And to trigger the glitch, you have to be looking through the binoculars, and then you hit roll and another button. I don't remember. I think it's two-hand weapon. No, it's roll and attack at the exact same time. And you just hit them, and then you let go of the binoculars, and you're going at super speed.
And you get the item that'll revive Eris.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
Yeah. You fight Shenglong, and Shenglong revives Eris.
Yeah.
It is super bonkers to watch that. It reminds me of because Dark Souls 1 had the kiln glitch too. So Dark Souls 1 had like the half hour, I don't know where that ended up, but it was in like the middle 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah, that was like 26 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
And some of those Souls games were like they're just easy to break in order to.
A question from a state of ignorance here. Is that like a state of the art that's evolving? Like, are people still poking at the seams trying to find the next binoculars glitch?
I think people are always looking for that. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. I mean, Dark Souls. I'm sure there's glitches in there. Dark Souls 1, very late into the speedrunning, found a lot of things to make the routes faster. And people are still setting times, these days. There was a new any percent world record within the last week or two. Mm-hmm. So minor optimizations, whether it be glitches or just faster way of running through an area or something like that. There's pretty much always room for improvement there.
I find that with speedrunning in general, that tends to be what marks the games that make it big in the world of speedrunning. Mm-hmm. Are the games where they're because there are games that either people just don't care about them, they're less popular, but they're games that are decent, but people have just kind of we've figured this out. And then you have things like Ocarina of Time or like Super Metroid or something where there's still kind of space for that optimization.
Yeah, years and years of work on those games, and they're still getting lower times.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is more of like a culture question, but nowadays with Twitch, is it generally considered that a speed run didn't happen unless it was done live, or are there kind of ones that are done straight on YouTube?
YouTube's fine. Typically, the speedrunners will do it on Twitch. Or, Speed Demos Archive is an association that gathers a bunch of speedruns and times and all that and puts videos and makes forums and has detailed notes about everything. And they actually require a recording so that it's not a run that was from Twitch or anything. It's just something that was recorded to hard drive of the run with certain specifications, so that they can judge them all equally and make sure that the runs are good. I don't think Twitch is necessarily the only place to do speed runs that are legit and, able to be judged similarly from everybody else's, but it's where a lot of speedrunners hang out for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so I noticed that one of this is more of just kind of a question I'm asking because I like watching your stuff. I haven't watched you do Lords of the Fallen yet because I still haven't played through that. But how with those games that are very similar, like how much of the skill transfers over? So like with a game like that has, I mean, it's different. Like I played it for a couple hours and it is very different, but did your skills in practicing, Dark Souls 2 help you, or Dark Souls 1 help you with that game?
Yeah, I think absolutely skills transferred quite easily. The very similar combat movement system, when you're breaking similar types of games, especially if you're going from a 2D side scroller platforming game to another 2D side scroller platforming game, you kind of have an idea of what you could do to save time in specific areas just from past experiences. And that helped a lot in Lords of the Fallen. There's a ledge here. Maybe I could jump over it and drop down, like, to save some time here. Just all of the movement being so similar between Lords of the Fallen and Dark Souls 2 made it very easy to just kind of transfer my skills over and play through it quickly.
Is Lords of the Fallen catching on with the community?
It's hard to say right now. I think it'll still need a bit more time. Certainly me playing it and the devs were doing streams of it, people watching it has alerted a lot of players who are open to the idea of a different Souls game that is not from software. However, there are a lot of people who are just kind of opposed to the idea and don't want to have anything to do with it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to giving it some more time. Like I'm open to it. I don't, it doesn't need to be Dark Souls. Like it can be Dark Souls-esque, and I'm still kind of chasing that experience, kind of regardless. Yeah. Have you ever speedran Demon Souls?
I not very well, but I have. I've played it enough that using what kind of similar from my Dark Souls 2 to Lords of the Fallen experience, I was able to go into Demon Souls and go, oh, okay, this is this type of encounter, or this is how the level is built out. I can just run past these guys, dodge at the right time, and sprint my way through it. So once I played it, like now when I play it these days, I do kind of just speed run through areas, because when you've killed things a million times, it's not always the most exciting thing to do again. So I wouldn't say I am a speedrunner of Demon Souls, but I can get through it faster than the average person, I hope.
It's always been a little bit strange to me that game has never really caught on with that. I feel like I've only watched, I've only seen 1 or 2 speedruns of that game. Mm-hmm. But what reminded me of it was that, because we were talking about how you can break Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, and then Demon Souls has that crazy, get on top of the tunnel in Stonefang glitch. Like there's all those games just have some kind of weird way to get out of the geometry and speed them up.
Yeah.
But
I actually don't know that glitch.
Yeah, it lets you skip a lot of Stonefang. It's real weird. The AGDQ run is where I first saw it, and one of the guys who's a commenter on that hates Demon Souls and spends the whole time bad mouthing it, while the dude who's running it and the guy on the couch are just kind of like, yep.
What a dick.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this is like every single thing that happens. He's like, and he has a British accent. I can't remember the guy's name. He does AGDQ every year, but he's just like, and these guys are unfair, and this is bullshit, and this is stupid. Like everything that's happening.
I can relate to that. I could see somebody sitting down with me through a whole Dark Souls run and going, "Oh yeah, that's a terrible fight. These guys are just not well designed." All this stuff like that.
It's funny that you say that, because oftentimes I will use your superhuman abilities as a counter to people who are saying this is too hard. And I say a lot, like Lobos did it with a ladle. I can do it with armor and sword.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's more of a testament to the design quality or my insanity level, but either one works. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, that insanity, I know, is looking for the hardest way to do something. Does that kind of explain your aversion to running glitches?
Not necessarily. A lot of games, I guess it's because I had experience running Dark Souls before, and I had this certain expectation of what a Dark Souls speedrun would be based off of all the Dark Souls 1 stuff. I never did the Kiln Glitch run. I came in too late for that, and mostly played on PC where that glitch did not work. So my experience was doing, hour long for any percent and, hour and a half to 2 hours for all bosses. So once they started breaking it, I was giddy with excitement at the idea. And I loved watching the runs, but to actually perform them didn't interest me nearly as much.
Is there so the other thing, we have you on to talk about speedrunning, but the other thing that you are renowned for is the challenge runs, which we were referencing. Is there anything that's kind of we mentioned the Olympic torch run, which was the last thing that I knew of that was kind of out in the ether. Do you have any ideas percolating or anything that you would like to do, or even if you're not planning to, that is a Dark Souls 2 kind of challenge concept?
Well, so Dark Souls 2 has been largely untouched by for me personally, by Cheat Engine. And that enabled a lot of very interesting and unique Dark Souls 1 runs. So there was a YouTube video not too long ago, maybe a month ago, that somebody had created a first-person mod that was much better than the first-person mod for Dark Souls 1. And you could actually run around, and it sort of looks like you're playing Skyrim a bit. A little more complicated than that, and kind of janky with the controls, but that is one run that I do plan on doing.
Wow,
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the weird thing, because the proportions of the world are not designed for first person. I watched the videos of that, and just everything looks so alien. Even definitely. More so, when you're not looking at it from that 45-degree down. Yeah.
That is rad. We just got a couple questions. We's just got. Who am I? What am I? What's wrong with my mouth?
Yeah, use guys.
Okay, we guys. We just have a couple of questions here from people who listened in to the show. Tanner Wolf asks. He says, "This is kind of an obvious question, but which speedrun in any of the Souls game, and I'll extend that to challenge runs as well, had you doubting your ability to finish it the most?"
So there is one run that I didn't finish. Is this more to Dark Souls 2 or either Dark Souls game?
Let's say either.
Okay. With that, I had the Clear Lord Ren challenge for Dark Souls 1, which involved beating all of the bosses except for Gwyn, and then building up my character, getting all these items, starting from Firelink, never touching a bonfire from that point, and trying to kill everything in the game, and then eventually ending with Gwyn. I made it about 85-ish% through the run. And this was right before Dark Souls 2 came out. I had cleared everything. I cleared the DLC. I went to Tomb of the Giants, and then a skeleton kicked me into a hole, and I died. Oh, no. And at that point, we were so close to Dark Souls 2 coming out that I was just like, if somebody wants to go and do this, that's fine. And it was fun. It was very... I got into a rhythm that I could confidently go through all of the Undead Burg, clear that, roll through Blight Town, kill everything there. I figured out all the strategies to safely clear. I just hadn't done that for Tomb of the Giants yet, and that's kind of my fault for not planning accordingly. But it was fun.
Wow.
So it's such a beautiful kind of idea, if you succeeded, because at the end of it, you would have this huge empty world with you at one end and Gwyn at another.
Exactly. That's the idea. Unfortunately, there were some times that they would load enemies back in, respawn them. For example, if I went down to Ash Lake after I had cleared Blight Town or Undead Burg, those things would actually respawn.
Oh, wow.
But I basically just had a checklist and would check off areas as I cleared them. So that was the rule there.
Yeah. So with the limited spawns in Dark Souls 2, that is actually a possibility. You could exhaust every single spawn in order to truly empty the world, right? So
please edit that out.
Okay.
No. that absolutely could happen. I'm not certain if there are any exceptions to that rule. Perhaps there are some enemies that do infinitely respawn, but for example, oh man, like the horses in the end of the Ivory King DLC. Not to spoil anything, but those people have said that they do, and they don't infinitely respawn, and I just don't know. Haven't done enough testing.
Yeah. Huh. So at that point, would the feat be just doing that, or would it be figuring out the fastest way to do it?
Doing it first, for sure.
Yeah.
And then deciding how much of your life you want to waste trying to do it quickly.
How much of your life you want to waste on the textbook definition of attrition?
Precisely. If somebody else came and did it and was like, I did it 3 hours faster than you, then I might be like, okay, now we need to sit down and do this.
Cool.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's skin in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to actually clear the things out, because you can't. There are lots of areas where you have to touch. If you were clearing everything out, there are areas in Dark Souls 2 where you have to touch a bonfire to get back. Specifically, that one in the Lost Bastille, where you're trapped over there, right?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, if you're doing the no bonfire run, you just don't go over there. But you can't clear everything out and do a no bonfire run unless you're literally going to empty everybody out.
yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, how does that work with the little half ladder into oh my gosh, Harvest Peak or Harvest Valley?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know.
You can't get back there for sure. So you would, I guess well.
Does the for
Specifics.
the no bonfires challenge and achievement and stuff, does it count when you use the primal bonfires?
No. You can
Okay.
use those and teleport back.
Yeah. So you just go through Harvest Valley and then just get to the end to get to Old Iron King, and then so that's how it's actually done for the people who are trying to get that ring.
Yeah.
Right. And I early on, I did Node Bonfire run, and I killed the run right before the Giant Lord by accidentally sitting at the bonfire in the Cardinal Tower. And I didn't revisit it for months. But
Yeah.
when I did, again, I did a no death, no bonfire run. And that makes the specifics much easier, because if you die, you're in trouble anyways. So, or the run's dead. So you just don't touch any bonfires, and you can homeward bone back to Firelink every time.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, Majula, not Firelink.
Yeah, which was-
That's the same idea.
Which may be over the ruins of Firelink.
knows?
There is no such thing as truth. Yes. Ewan Benwell writes in with another question similar to that, which is, what's the most fun challenge run that you've done in any Souls game?
Oh, man, fun. Olympic Torch run was fun. The one that for some reason, I don't know why this sticks in my head as a fun run, but the run in Dark Souls 1 when I did an artificial first-person run where I had to constantly be aimed with a bow. And so it was a first-person run, but I could pop out to heal, because you can't use items while aiming, but you can roll and do pretty much, well, most of your movement package anyways. And I don't know why I think it was fun. It was, I'm sure, nauseating for anybody watching. Maybe that's why I thought it was fun. No, but yeah, I really liked the kind of unique spin it took on playing through the game. Kind of like you said before, it changes the viewpoint and really distorts kind of everything you know about what the game looks like or what boss fights look like.
Yeah.
When you suddenly see Ornstein being much taller than you and he's jabbing this giant spear at you, it's really terrifying.
Yeah, I wonder how much spice that would add, especially for people who criticize Dark Souls for not having bosses at the scale of Dark Souls 2, of not having bosses at the scale of Dark Souls 1, because
Yeah. And then just kind of finally a little bit longer comment. Chad Cross says, first of all, thanks for always acknowledging chat during your streams. I can barely acknowledge the outside world when playing Dark Souls. So you communicating with chat while playing a Souls game is a feat in and of itself. Second, thank you for being on the podcast. Try to tell everyone I know about the show. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chad. That was more of a comment for us, but thank you. And Chad asks, at what point did you know that Twitch is going to be a thing and not just a fad? And I don't know if he means that as the service or if he means for you. Like when you would just kind of become like, this is what I'm going to do, because I know that you do you have a lot of subscribers, you have a huge fan base there. Yeah.
I guess the moment that I was like, well, I'm going to be on Twitch, weekly from now on. Initially, the only reason I streamed was to share new game experiences with close friends who had already played those games. So I think, in particular, one of the first ones was Final Fantasy VII. I had not played back in the day, so I was going to play through it. My friend was like, I want to come watch, but I can't make, we didn't want to deal with scheduling logistics. So I was like, hey, I can stream it on Justin TV, and you can watch and chat with me and answer questions if I have them, etc. And at that point, other people would stumble in, and I started getting that audience. And I really enjoyed the social aspect of it. And also the fact that sometimes I could ask chat and get tips and spend less time running around, lost in a game, or catch this thing I may have missed. And then I stumbled into this speedrunning community, which I simply found that by wanting to play through Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past in one sitting. I did that, but it took a long time, and I was like, I think I can do this faster. So then I Googled, and sure enough, people had done it much faster. And then that entirely changed my mentality for gaming. And then after that point, I was like, I pretty much saw no reason to not stream a game that I was playing, unless it's something kind of more casual and not very entertaining that I just kind of want to chill out and play.
Like cribbage?
Yeah.
Like cribbage.
Microsoft Hearts.
My weekly cribbage group. Yes, we don't stream that.
Spider Solitaire. Chad also just goes on to ask, have you met any of the other kind of big name Souls runners in real life? Ubist or Santo or...
I'm going to feel really bad if I forget somebody that I met. No, I don't think so. No. They are all either distanced in the U.S. or from... Actually, a lot of them are from Sweden or Norway or Finland. Not many a chance. Although I do have an opportunity coming up next year to potentially meet at least a few of them. So we'll see. See if I have a different answer after that.
We'll do our special follow-up on this question. He also he just kind of finished out by talking a little bit, Sugar, about your Running Man speedrun, which I also thought was super fun.
Oh boy, that was a challenge. Basically, just are you taking? Okay, just to specify, are you talking about the Dark Souls 1 run where my character was constantly running?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, that was very interesting to say the least. So I used Cheat Engine to grant myself infinite stamina, and then I used a macro to constantly hold down the forward button for the game. And it created a lot of unique scenarios, trying to get, past certain bottlenecked enemies would be a lot more difficult of a challenge because I just couldn't control my character nearly as well. And I was limited to my turning radius somewhat by how quickly I could turn the camera in some cases. There were just a whole lot of things that changed. And those are the kinds of the runs that most interested me, that made you really rethink how to tackle something you've done a million times a specific way, because it just doesn't work.
You couldn't go down ladders. Because then you're already tossing
right.
up, right?
That's right. It just pushed you back up.
Yeah.
Huh. Was there any point in the game that I had to do something to buy. Like I had to go down a ladder.
There's I remember from watching. I don't think I watched it on stream. I think I watched it later on YouTube. But when you're in the Duke's archive, there's that long ladder you have to go down, and you have to figure out a way to use the Iaito to do the R2 attack in order to land on the ledge below.
Yeah, that weapon. Somebody had busted that out earlier in chat when I was trying to do the skip to the lower Undead Berg to get to Capper Demon, and they said, "Yeah, I was trying to use." What was it? Maybe Butcher Knife or just some sort of running attack to propel myself off the ledge. And somebody said, yeah, the Iaito or maybe it was was it that specific weapon?
It was that one or the other. I can't remember the name of the other.
It was definitely katana, some sort of katana weapon. Yeah. And yeah, when you use the R2 attack, for whatever reason, it flings you off the edge so far. And yeah, that was I have to give credit to chat for that one.
So is Blighttown only possible in that run? Because I'm sorry, I'm admitting that I haven't seen this. Is Blighttown only possible because none of the drops are that far?
You skip Blighttown, right?
Blighttown, you can do the drops no problem because there are ladders, but you can just run off and take the fall damage, and they never kill you. But yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I think that's probably all I've got. Can you think of any other wrap up stuff, Cole?
Do you intend to approach Bloodborne as a speedrunning kind of challenge experience?
Absolutely, I will be. Yeah. I've tackled Dark Souls 2 lesser so than Dark Souls 1 because a lot of the runs were just like, use this weapon that, you'll hit everything the exact same way but do a, moderately less amount of damage. So I'm not so much into the just using those certain weapons. However, some of the more unique attacks I'll definitely be keeping my eye out for. And I'm hoping that Bloodborne has a good variation of new mechanics that can, similar to the torch for the Olympic torch run.
Yeah.
Something is implemented that I can be like, well, we're just going to do this for the whole run and make things interesting.
Yeah. Nice.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it will, just based on what little I know. So
sure.
Where can people find you on the internet?
Well, on the internet, I'm mostly on Twitch at twitch.tv/Lobos Jr. That's JR. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter are all Lobos JR Gaming. I try to confuse people that way. So,
yeah, there's also Lobos Jr. Attorney at Law.
That's right.
You have to compete with, and you have to make sure.
Yeah, don't confuse me with that guy. If he starts playing Dark Souls, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, his namespace is so much less polluted.
Yeah, this whole damn game is out of order. So we just wanted to say thanks again to Lobos Jr. For joining us. He had to run, but again, just a wonderful man, and I encourage anyone who's listening to this to check the show notes and support him in any way you can.
Yeah, he is the high water mark for tenacity in video games.
Yeah, he is a patience elemental. It's like him and Reno from Game Center CX. Yep. And the two of them are inspirations.
Like Ignis from Planescape, he is a portal to the elemental plane of abiding.
Yeah. So what do we have in the way of admin stuff, Cole?
Well, next episode we're going to be talking about the first of the DLCs, right?
Yeah. So we're talking about Crown of the Sunken King, and we're going to be joined by Angelica Norgren, which is kind of an awesome story behind this. Like, I was on Twitter and just looking up what people might be saying about the podcast because I'm a vain, sad little boy, and saw something in a different language. And I was like, someone's talking about Bonfireside Chat. And it was actually one of our fans on Twitter talking to Angelica, about the show. She is from Sweden, and she runs, and she is the host of a radio show in Sweden called P3 Games, and runs a blog called it's Xbox Games with Girl and Nikki. who is their brother Nicholas, which is a huge blog in like an entirely different country. Like I try not to be so Americentric in general, which I think is a generally good advice. And yeah. So super excited about that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I always like when we can get an international guest on the show.
Yeah, and I follow her on Twitter, and she's on point about stuff. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of pictures of her on her blog of her meeting somebody dressed up as the Dark Souls 2 knight at a gaming event, and it looks swag as shit.
Nice.
So
yeah. So you can look forward to that next week. There's no appendix for this right now. We're also recording that episode before this comes out. So if you have any thoughts, like stray thoughts about it, go ahead and send them over. We'll find some kind of place to do it. But thank you, everybody who wrote in response to our social media stuff.
Yeah,
Calls
absolutely.
for responses. Yeah.
And by way of general stuff, there's also Duckstream, which we mentioned at the top. So if you go to Duckfeed.tv/Duckstream, that is in about a week from when you're listening to this. It is our charity event for Transactive. We're streaming for 24 hours between the two of us, and you should 100% check that out and give what you can.
Yeah, kick us a couple bucks. Not kick us, kick them. Kick them a couple bucks.
Yeah. But if you want to kick us a couple bucks, how would they go about that?
They would go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. We're making a lot of progress toward the Bloodborne tier, which is how we're going to be able to afford PS4s and copies of Bloodborne in order to continue the show without any let's say undue financial hardship around that. So I am continually astonished by your guys' continuing generosity, and that has made a huge difference in making us able, making it easier for us to do to do these shows for you.
Yeah, and he, we're not holding the show hostage.
Right.
Just want to reiterate that. However, it helps us out a lot because we, we're not independently wealthy, and neither of us had plans to buy a PS4 if it wasn't for Bloodborne. So, it'll make a big difference. So, we really appreciate that, and everybody who already gives us gives, really appreciate that too.
Yeah, we are grateful and humbled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv.
Yeah.
That's probably good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Ratings,
good.
reviews.
With ratings, reviews. With the Bloodborne delay, we're going to be kind of talking about and huddling around, talking about what we're going to do in that intervening month and a half in the interregnum. So expect some news about that within the next couple months, I suppose.
Yeah,
necessarily.
And it'll be like we have alternate stuff to do.
Yeah.
So like we have ideas for things. So this train doesn't stop. And ratings, reviews. Christmas is right on the corner, or whatever holiday you choose to celebrate. So if you are doing any shopping on Amazon, go to duckfeed.tv/tipjar, and it doesn't cost you anything. It helps us out a huge deal. And good night, and good luck.
Umbasa.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
Going to be looking forward to the new World of Warcraft expansion because I play that. So
when does that
cool.
when does that happen?
That launches tonight. So
wow.
Yeah.
Is that
Cool.
Is that something that is pre-downloaded and then you press a button at midnight and get to play it? Or?
Pretty much, they just flick a switch on the servers and it's all activated, and then yay! Assuming you can get in with the crazy queues, but
Right. The biggest video game launch I ever worked in retail was the Burning Crusade.
Oh man, yep.
And that it seems ridiculously quaint now to sell MMO expansions in boxes.
Sure.
Well, we can all agree that boxes are bad.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's I've never actually, I used to joke back when I was married. I'd never actually tried World of Warcraft, but I always had this joke about getting the demo for it and putting it in glass, and then just in case of divorce, break glass because I was scared of the time.
Right.
And then I got divorced and never actually broke the glass. So, yeah.
Probably worth something if you keep it in that glass, though.
Yeah, exactly. Mint in glass.
Yeah.
Exactly.
MIG.
Preserved, pouring glass over it.
Yeah, so in the future they can
In
create
amber or something.
like a Wawasaurus, like a
Yeah, exactly.
Mamorgosaurus Rux.